Everyone in the kingdom feared the beast in the iron cage. They said he had killed his entire pack. They said his eyes turned gold before he tore men apart. They said no one should ever go near him. So when the guards threw a starving Omega girl into the prison kitchen and ordered her to feed the monster, everyone expected her to run. But she didn't. Every night, while the entire kingdom slept, she carried a small bowl of food to the cage. She never asked his name. She never asked what he had done. She only looked through the iron bars and whispered, "Eat." The beast never touched the food. Not for the first night. Not for the second. Not for the third. Until one freezing evening, the Omega girl was attacked in the courtyard. And for the first time in 10 years, the beast broke his chains. He did not run. He did not escape. He walked straight toward the people who had imprisoned him. And when the terrified guards raised their weapons, the beast looked past them, straight at the little Omega girl. Then he said the words that made the entire kingdom tremble. "Touch her again, and I will remind you why you feared me." But no one knew the truth. The beast was not a monster. He was the lost Alpha King. And the Omega girl who had brought him food was the mate he had been searching for all his life. The storm arrived before the prisoner did. By late afternoon, the mountains of Blackthorn had disappeared behind thick curtains of snow. The wind moved through the narrow streets like something alive, shaking wooden shutters and sending sharp pieces of ice against the stone walls of the keep. Then came the sound. Iron wheels. Slow. Heavy. Dragging across the frozen ground. One by one, the people of Blackthorn stepped out of their homes to watch. No one spoke loudly. No one needed to. A massive black wagon moved through the village, pulled by 4 dark horses covered in frost. At its center stood an iron cage large enough to hold a wolf. Or a man. The cage was wrapped in heavy chains. Inside it, something moved. A woman quickly pulled her child behind her. 2 warriors stepped closer, their hands resting on the hilts of their swords. The slave trader riding beside the wagon smiled at the fear spreading through the crowd. "Stand back," he called. "The beast is dangerous." The wagon stopped in the center of the courtyard. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the prisoner slowly lifted his head. The crowd went silent. He was enormous. Even sitting, he looked taller than most of the warriors surrounding the cage. His dark hair fell across his face, wet with melted snow and blood. His clothes were torn. Deep scars crossed his arms, his shoulders, and the side of his neck. But it was his eyes that made people step back. Gold. Not the soft gold of candlelight. The sharp, unnatural gold of a wolf watching its prey. Someone whispered, "Rogue." The slave trader laughed. "Not just a rogue." He placed one hand against the iron bars. "This one has killed entire families." The man inside the cage did not move. He did not roar. He did not throw himself against the bars. He simply sat with his back against the cold iron, one hand pressed tightly against his side. Blood had soaked through his shirt. Elara noticed that before she noticed anything else. She stood near the kitchen entrance, holding a basket of firewood against her hip. No one looked at her. That was normal. Elara had become very good at being invisible. She was an Omega in a territory where strength mattered more than kindness. She had no powerful family. No title. No awakened wolf anyone respected. She worked in the kitchens. She carried water. She cleaned floors. And when important people walked through the courtyard, she moved out of their way. But she did not move now. Because the man in the cage looked hungry. The slave trader threw a piece of stale bread through the bars. It landed near the prisoner's hand. The man looked at it. Then looked away. Elara frowned. The trader shook his head. "See that? Refuses food. They always become difficult when they think they are still important." The Alpha of Blackthorn stepped out of the keep. He was followed by several members of the council. "Move him to the lower courtyard," the Alpha ordered. "The council will decide what to do with him." The prisoner finally looked toward the council. Something changed in his face. Not fear. Not anger. Recognition. As if he knew them. As if he had once stood above them. Elara saw it. The way the councilman avoided his eyes. The way one of them suddenly looked away. The beast in the cage was not looking at them like a captured animal. He was looking at them like a king who had discovered his enemies. Then the Alpha turned toward the gathered servants. Everyone stays away from the prisoner. The order echoed across the courtyard. Elara lowered her eyes. Yes, Alpha. She obeyed. For approximately 3 minutes. Then she went into the kitchen. The stew was still warm. She took a bowl. The cook saw her. Elara. She stopped. Where are you going? To feed the prisoner. The cook stared at her. Then laughed. You heard the Alpha. He has not eaten. That is not your concern. Elara looked down at the bowl. No. The cook's smile faded. It really is not. Elara walked away. The courtyard had grown darker by the time she reached the cage. The prisoner lifted his head. The closer she came, the larger he seemed. There were scars across his knuckles. A cut beneath his eye. And beneath the blood and dirt, something about his face was strangely controlled. He looked like a man trying very hard not to become dangerous. Elara stopped a few steps from the bars. For 1 second, neither of them moved. He expected fear. She expected a monster. Neither found what they expected. Elara crouched and pushed the bowl through the bars. You should eat. The man looked at the stew. Then at her. His eyes were still frightening. But beneath the gold, there was exhaustion. Deep exhaustion. The kind that did not come from one night without sleep. The kind that came from years of carrying something too heavy. He did not touch the food. Elara stood. Fine. She turned. Wait. The word was low. Rough. She stopped. The prisoner looked at the bowl again. Then back at her. Why? Elara glanced over her shoulder. Because you look hungry. Something moved in his expression. So quickly she almost missed it. Pain. Then it was gone. She walked away before he could ask anything else. Behind her, the guards continued staring. And inside the iron cage, the man everyone called a beast slowly reached for the bowl. Somewhere beneath the silence, something ancient began to wake. The next morning, Elara brought another bowl. She told herself it was because the prisoner had eaten the first one. That was all. It had nothing to do with the way his fingers had trembled around the bowl. Nothing to do with the way he had looked at her as if kindness was something he had forgotten existed. She placed the bowl near the cage. The prisoner lifted his head. Good morning, she said. He stared at her. Most people say good morning, she added. Most people are not locked in cages. Elara glanced at the iron bars. Fair point. For the first time, something almost changed in his face. Then he picked up the bowl. Later that day, a small kitchen boy named Finn approached the cage. He doesn't look like a monster, the boy whispered. The slave trader heard him. He grabbed Finn's arm. Come here. Finn resisted. The trader shoved him to the ground. Kael stood. The iron bars groaned beneath his hands. His golden eyes flashed. The guards raised their weapons. Elara stepped between them. Stop. Kael stared at her. His rage filled the courtyard. She swallowed. Then whispered, please. Slowly, his fingers released the bars. The guards lowered their weapons. Everyone saw it. The dangerous prisoner had listened to the Omega. Kael looked at Elara. Do not stand between me and danger. She looked back. Then stop making me. And for the first time, something shifted between them. Kael was not healing. Elara realized it 3 days later. The wound beneath his ribs had grown darker, and the skin around it was swollen. He ate the food she brought, but never enough. Whenever he thought no one was watching, his hand pressed against his side. So Elara began stealing herbs from the kitchen garden. When she returned to the cage, Kael watched the small bundle in her hand. What are those? Medicine. I don't need it. You are bleeding through your shirt. I have noticed. Then you do need it. He looked at her for a long moment before finally taking the herbs. The next day, Elara brought clean cloth. Give me your hand, she said. No. You need to clean the wound. I can do it. Then why haven't you? Silence. Finally, Kael allowed her to reach through the bars. As she cleaned the wound, Elara noticed strange dark lines spreading beneath his skin. What happened? Blade. I can see that. He said nothing. She looked up. Do you have a name? For a long moment, he remained silent. Then he finally answered. Kael. Elara repeated it softly. Kael. His eyes lifted to hers. Do not say it like that. Like what? Like you are trying to remember it. Elara looked at him. I am. For the first time, something almost like pain crossed his face. And Elara began to wonder who the man behind the scars truly was. Finn began visiting the cage after sunset. At first, Elara thought he was only curious. But soon, she found him sitting near the iron bars, holding half a piece of bread. What are you doing? She asked. Finn glanced at Kael. He isn't dangerous to me. Elara looked at Kael. Kael's expression remained calm. He is hungry, Kael said. So are you. He has less. Elara sighed. After that, Finn kept returning. Sometimes he talked. Sometimes Kael answered. Sometimes they simply sat in silence. One morning, Finn brought a small wooden stick. Kael took it from him. You hold it wrong. Finn frowned. I do not. Kael adjusted the boy's grip. Elara stared. You are teaching an 8-year-old to fight. I'm teaching him to survive. He is a child. That is why he needs to learn. Later, Elara found Finn sitting beside the cage. Why do you like him? She asked. Finn looked through the bars. He doesn't look at me like I'm small. Elara glanced at Kael. The prisoner remained silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, because I was not angry enough when I should have been. Elara looked at him. She understood there was a wound beneath those words. That evening, she learned Finn was being sold to a slave trader because of an old debt. And the council had announced Kael's execution. 3 days. Kael looked at Elara. Then we have 3 days. For what? His eyes turned cold. To make sure they do not take him. For the first time, Elara realized the man in the cage was willing to risk everything for a child. The cage was damaged 2 days later. No one asked how. Everyone knew. Kael had nearly broken it. The council ordered him moved to an old stone chamber beneath the keep while the cage was repaired. Elara was assigned to clean the room. When she entered, Kael stood near the narrow window. For the first time, there were no iron bars between them. Elara stopped. Kael turned. Neither of them spoke. Then he stepped away from the door, giving her space. That small act affected Elara more than aggression would have. She had spent most of her life around powerful people who believed strength gave them the right to take whatever they wanted. Kael had enough strength to destroy the room. Instead, he moved away from her. Elara began cleaning. The room contained a small shelf of old books. Kael kept looking at them. You read? She asked. Yes. She took one book from the shelf. Read this. Kael looked at her. Why? I want to know if you can. He stared at her for a moment before taking the book. Then he began reading. His voice changed when he read. It became calmer. Deeper. Elara slowly stopped working. The beast in the cage knew ancient history. He knew military law. He understood maps, treaties, and the names of dead kings. He was not an uneducated killer. He had once been a king. After that, Elara began bringing him books. Sometimes she read while he listened. Sometimes he read while she worked. They did not speak much. The silence between them became comfortable. One evening, Elara found a record about the Northern Massacre. A page had been torn from the book. Kael stood near the window. My sister was there, he finally said. Her name was Mara. She wanted to become a healer, Kael continued. When the attack began, I told her to stay inside. But she didn't, Elara whispered. No. His voice became quieter. She went looking for the wounded. Elara understood. You couldn't protect her. Kael looked at her. I promised I would. The room became silent. Elara looked down at her hands. My family promised things too, she said. They abandoned me when my wolf did not awaken. Kael's eyes darkened. So you became useful. Elara looked at him. Someone had to. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Kael sat across from her. Not close, but closer than before. Outside, rain struck the narrow window. Inside, two wounded people sat among forgotten books. And slowly, without either of them realizing it, trust began to grow. The truth began with a ledger. Elara found it beneath a loose stone in the library floor while searching for records about the Northern Massacre. The old book had left too many questions. Why was the page missing? Why did the council want Kael dead so quickly? And why had the slave trader been paid for him? The ledger answered some of those questions. Names, dates, payments, prisoners, shipments. Elara's fingers froze when she saw Lord Veyr's name written across several pages. She took the ledger to Kael. He read it without speaking. His hands remained still. Only his breathing changed. The pages showed prisoners taken from the Northern Territory. Many had been sold. Some had been transferred. Others had simply disappeared. Kael slowly closed the book. For years, he had believed his people were dead. Now he had to face something worse. They might have been alive. They might have been sold. And they might have spent years wondering why their king had never come for them. I thought they were dead, Kael whispered. Elara looked at him. I know. No, he said quietly. You don't. He stared at the ledger. If they were alive, I left them. You were captured. I should have found them. You were poisoned. I should have found them. His voice sharpened. Elara stepped closer. You were betrayed. Kael looked at her. She held his gaze. You did not abandon them. For one moment, he looked like a man who wanted desperately to believe her. Then the doors opened. Guards entered. Lord Veyr stood behind them. His eyes immediately went to the ledger. Elara understood. They had been discovered. Kael was dragged before the council in chains. You have been helping a murderer, Veyr said. Elara lifted her chin. Have I? The council ordered Kael beaten. Elara tried to stop them, but Kael's eyes met hers. Do not let them use you. Later, she cleaned the blood from his face. You should not have taken the blame. You were going to be imprisoned. I would have survived. So would I. Her hand stopped against his cheek. Kael looked at her. You are angry. Yes. Good. Why? Because it means you are not afraid. Their eyes met. Then Elara touched his wrist. A sudden warmth passed between them. Both of them froze. Something ancient had noticed them. And somewhere beneath the silence, something had begun to answer. Morning Finn disappeared, Elara knew immediately. His small wooden knife was gone. His cup still sat on the kitchen table, half full. The room was too quiet. Elara ran toward the servants' quarters. Finn's bed was empty. His blanket had been thrown aside. A cold feeling moved through her chest. She rushed toward the main gates. A wagon was already leaving. The slave trader sat at the front. Finn was inside. Elara ran toward the guards. Stop them. The guards barely looked at her. The papers are legal. He is a child. He is dead. The words struck her harder than the cold. The wagon moved farther away. Elara grabbed the gate. Open it. One of the guards shoved her aside. She fell into the snow. Then the keep shook. A deep metallic sound rolled through the courtyard. The guards turned. The chamber doors exploded outward. Kael stepped through. His chains hung broken from his wrists. Blood ran down his hands. For one terrifying second, he stood beneath the falling snow. Then his eyes found Elara. You came back, she whispered. Kael looked at her as if the question made no sense. You were still here. The words struck her harder than they should have. Elara pointed toward the forest. They took Finn. Kael's expression changed. Which way? She pointed. They ran. Snow filled Elara's boots. Branches struck her face. Kael moved ahead of her, but never too far. Every few seconds, he looked back. Not to see if she was following. To make sure she was safe. They found the wagon near an abandoned road. Several prisoners were locked inside. Finn was among them. The trader saw Kael and ran. He did not get far. Kael caught him before he reached the trees. The trader fell into the snow. Wait. Kael grabbed him by the collar. The trader looked up at the golden eyes. You don't have to do this. Kael's grip tightened. For one terrifying moment, Elara saw the beast everyone feared. The man who had been chained. The king who had been betrayed. The prisoner who had been sold like property. The trader had taken Finn. He had sold people. He had called Kael a possession. Kael's face became empty. The trader began begging. Then Finn cried out from the wagon. Kael stopped. The silence that followed was enormous. Kael looked toward the wagon. Then back at the trader. He released him. The trader fell into the snow. Kael walked away. Elara stared at him. You let him live. Kael did not look back. There are children watching. Elara understood. He was not only protecting Finn from the trader. He was protecting Finn from becoming someone who believed violence was the only answer. Elara found the keys. Together, they opened the wagon. One prisoner. Then another. Then another. Chains fell into the snow. Finn ran to Elara. She wrapped both arms around him. For a moment, she could not breathe. Then she felt the weight of the chains in her hand. She looked at the wagon. Then at the slave trader. Then at Kael. She took a torch. Kael turned. Elara. She looked at him. Some things should not be rebuilt. Then she threw the torch. Flames spread across the dry wood. The wagon burned against the dark forest. The prisoners stood free. The iron chains lay open in the snow. For one brief moment, the fire reflected in Kael's golden eyes. Then a blade came from the darkness. Kael moved before Elara saw it. The poisoned knife struck him beneath the ribs. He staggered. Elara caught him. His weight fell against her. Kael. His eyes were open. But the gold was fading. He looked down at the blood. Then at her. I told you, he whispered. Elara held him tighter. What? Do not stand between me and danger. Her eyes filled with tears. Then stop making me. For the first time, the man everyone called a monster allowed someone to hold him while he was afraid. And behind them, the burning wagon lit the night like a promise. The chains were broken. But the war had only begun. They found shelter in an abandoned mountain library before dawn. The windows were broken. Snow covered the old stone floor. Dust rested over the shelves like a thin layer of ash. Kael lay on a wooden table, pale and silent. The poisoned blade had gone deep. Elara pressed a cloth against his wound while Finn sat nearby, clutching the small wooden knife Kael had made for him. For 3 nights, Elara barely slept. Whenever Kael's breathing weakened, she was there. Whenever he tried to push her away, she ignored him. Stop, he whispered one night. No. You cannot keep doing this. I can. His eyes opened slowly. You should be afraid of me. Elara looked at him. I was. Kael remained silent. Then you brought a child back from a slave wagon, she continued. So now I am confused. For the first time, something almost like a smile touched his face. That night, Kael woke from a nightmare. He stood beside the broken window, breathing heavily. I couldn't save her, he whispered. Elara did not ask who. She simply stood beside him. After a long silence, Kael said, I survived because I was stronger. Elara looked at him. No, she said softly. You survived because someone, somewhere, wanted you to. Kael stared at her. And when dawn came, his hand was still holding hers. As the poison slowly left Kael's body, his strength returned. But so did something else. The wolf beneath his skin. Everyone noticed the change. Kael became quieter. His golden eyes seemed brighter. Even the rescued prisoners kept their distance whenever his temper shifted. Only Elara remained near him. One evening, Finn cut his hand while gathering wood. The scent of blood filled the library. Kael froze. His head turned sharply. A deep growl rose from his chest. Everyone stopped moving. Kael's hands clenched at his sides as he fought the beast inside him. "Elara," he warned. She understood. He was telling her to stay away. Instead, she stepped closer. "Kael." His breathing became rough. The wolf inside him pushed forward. Elara placed her hand against his chest. The growl stopped. Not completely, but enough. Kael stared at her as if he did not understand what had just happened. Later that night, he finally told her about his mate. "She was in the northern pack," he said quietly. "I never found her body after the massacre." Elara felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. She remembered the first time their eyes had met. The warmth when she touched his wrist. The way his wolf listened to her. What if she didn't die? Elara asked. Kael looked at her. "Then I would have found her." "Maybe she was never where you thought." Silence filled the room. Kael slowly reached toward her face, but stopped before touching her. "I will not claim you because of a bond." Elara's heart tightened. "Good." His eyes narrowed. "Good. I want you to choose me." For the first time, the powerful Alpha King looked afraid. Because somewhere deep inside, he already knew the truth. He had. They returned to Blackthorn 3 days later. The gates opened slowly. No one in the courtyard knew whether Kael had come back as a prisoner, a rebel, or a king. The rescued prisoners stood behind him. Finn stayed close to Elara. And Kael walked at the front, wearing the broken royal ring that had once belonged to the ruler of the Northern Territory. The moment the older warriors saw it, whispers spread through the crowd. "That ring. It cannot be the Northern King." Lord Veyr stepped forward before the rumors could grow. "Kael," he called coldly, "surrender yourself to the council." Kael stopped. He did not bow. He did not reach for a weapon. Elara stepped beside him and held up the ledger. "This is the truth." Veyr's face changed. The crowd began to gather around them. Names. Payments. Prisoners. Shipments. The evidence was impossible to ignore. Some of the older warriors looked toward Kael with shame. They had believed he was a murderer. They had feared him for years. But now they were beginning to understand that the monster had been created by a lie. Veyr raised his voice. He still murdered his own people. Kael's eyes darkened. Elara opened her mouth, but Kael stopped her with a glance. Then Veyr revealed his final weapon. "The Omega belongs to him." The courtyard became silent. Elara froze. Veyr smiled. "His mate." Kael's expression changed. Veyr had seen it. He knew. "If you refuse to kneel," Veyr continued, "she dies." Every warrior waited for Kael to attack. The beast had returned. The Alpha King stood before them. And the woman he loved was being used against him. For several seconds, Kael did not move. Then, slowly, he walked toward Elara. And he knelt. Not before Veyr. Before her. The entire courtyard fell silent. Kael took her hand. "I have knelt before enough men who believed power made them worthy." He lifted his eyes to hers. "I will kneel only before the woman who reminded me that I was still human." Elara's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Kael." But he squeezed her hand. The council had expected fear. Instead, they saw something far more dangerous. A king who no longer needed to prove his strength. Behind them, the warriors began choosing sides. Some stepped toward Kael. Others remained with Veyr. The territory was dividing. And somewhere beneath the keep, Veyr had already prepared his final move. Because if he could not control the king, he would take the woman who had become his heart. The night after Kael returned to Blackthorn, no one slept peacefully. The territory had divided itself. Some warriors had chosen Kael. Others still stood behind Lord Veyr. Elara knew something was wrong before dawn. Finn's sleeping place was empty. His blanket lay on the floor, and the small wooden knife Kael had made for him was gone. Elara ran through the keep. Finn. There was no answer. Then she saw the eastern passage door hanging open. A small piece of Finn's shirt was caught on the broken hinge. Her heart sank. Veyr had taken him. Kael found her moments later. The moment he saw the cloth in her hand, his expression became cold. Where is he? Veyr took him. Something changed inside Kael. His eyes flashed gold. I will bring him back. I am coming. No, Elara stepped closer. You do not get to decide that. This is dangerous. So is everything you do. Kael stared at her. She continued, I am not asking you to protect me. I am telling you that I am coming. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Kael looked away. Walk beside me. Elara nodded. They followed the trail beyond the northern wall, toward the old execution grounds. The place was surrounded by guards. At the center stood an iron cage. Elara stopped. Kael stopped too. He recognized the shape immediately. The same cruel bars. The same narrow door. The same kind of cage that had once held him. Finn was inside. His hands were tied. When he saw Elara, he tried to stand. Don't worry. Her heart broke. Veyr stood beside the cage with a calm smile. You see, he said. Even now, the child believes you can save him. Kael stepped forward. Release him. Veyr laughed. Still giving orders. Kael's eyes became colder. You have no power here. I have enough. Veyr looked toward the soldiers surrounding them. Your people are tired of war, Kael. Surrender your claim to the northern territories, and the boy lives. Kael's hand slowly closed into a fist. Veyr leaned toward the cage. Refuse, and he dies. Finn's face went pale. Elara looked around. There were too many guards. Too many weapons. No clear escape. Then she remembered Kael's lessons. Protection was not the same as helplessness. Her eyes met Finn's. The boy understood. Elara slowly stepped backward. Near her foot lay a piece of broken metal. She bent down and picked it up. While Veyr focused on Kael, she began cutting the rope around her wrists. The metal tore her skin. She kept going. Kael noticed. Their eyes met for one brief second. He understood. But he said nothing. He trusted her. Finally, the rope broke. Elara moved quickly. She struck the guard beside her and grabbed his keys. At the same moment, Finn kicked the cage bars. The guard turned. Finn threw the small wooden knife. The keys fell. Elara caught them. Finn. The boy grabbed them through the bars. His fingers shook as he unlocked the cage. The moment he was free, he ran to Elara. She pulled him into her arms. Then steel was drawn behind them. Veyr stood with his sword in hand. Enough. Kael moved between them. Veyr smiled. There he is. The beast. Kael's eyes darkened. You wanted this. I wanted everyone to see what you truly are. Veyr attacked. Kael blocked the blade. Steel struck steel. The fight was fast and brutal. Veyr expected rage. He expected Kael to lose control. But Kael remained silent. Controlled. You should have killed me years ago. Veyr shouted. Kael's sword stopped near his throat. Why? Because then you would have become exactly what I told everyone you were. Kael's eyes narrowed. Veyr smiled. I destroyed your pack. The words froze him. Your sister discovered the prisoner shipments, Veyr continued. She knew the truth. So I silenced her. Kael's grip tightened. So you killed her? Yes. The beast inside Kael rose. His eyes turned completely gold. Kill me, Veyr whispered. Kael saw fire. His sister. The burning northern fortress. The night he had failed to save her. For years, he had carried that guilt. Now the man responsible stood before him, waiting for revenge. Then Finn shouted. Elara! Kael turned. Veyr had seized her. A blade rested against her throat. Now choose, Veyr said. Kael lowered his sword. His eyes met Elara's. Not rage. Not fear. A question. Do you trust me? Elara gave the smallest nod. Kael dropped his weapon. Veyr smiled. Elara drove her elbow into his ribs. The blade moved away. Kael crossed the distance instantly and threw Veyr to the ground. Even Veyr's men seemed to hesitate. A golden light moved through Kael's body. It traveled from Elara's hand into his. The ancient bond between them pulsed like a living heartbeat. Veyr stared at them. What have you done? Kael's eyes remained fixed on him. Nothing. He took one step forward. This is what I was always meant to become. Veyr's expression twisted. You are still one man. Kael looked toward the warriors standing behind him. Then toward the prisoners who had been rescued from the cages. Then toward Finn, who stood beside an old Blackthorn soldier. No, Kael said. I am not. Veyr lifted his sword. Kill them. His soldiers charged. The battlefield exploded into chaos. Steel clashed against steel. Warriors shouted. Snow flew beneath running feet. Kael moved forward. Elara stayed beside him. Not behind him. Not hidden. Beside him. The first soldier attacked Kael from the left. Kael blocked the strike. The second came from the right. Elara moved before Kael could turn. She drove her blade into the soldier's weapon and knocked it away. Kael looked at her. For the first time, he did not tell her to stay back. He simply nodded. Together, they fought. Their movements were strangely perfect. When Kael moved forward, Elara covered his side. When Elara was surrounded, Kael appeared beside her. The bond between them allowed them to feel one another. Every movement. Every danger. Every heartbeat. Veyr watched from the edge of the battlefield. His expression grew darker. No, he whispered. He had spent years building his power on one belief. That Kael was alone. A broken king. A dangerous animal with no one left to protect. But now Kael had something Veyr had never expected. Someone who would stand beside him. And that made him more dangerous than ever. Veyr raised his sword. Take the Omega. Several soldiers turned toward Elara. Kael's body became instantly still. The bond between them burned. Elara felt his fear before he spoke. Kael. I know. 3 soldiers charged her. The first swung his sword. Elara ducked. The second grabbed her arm. She twisted free. The third raised his weapon behind her. Kael saw it. He crossed the distance in seconds. The blade struck his shoulder instead of Elara. Kael growled. Elara turned. Kael. He pulled the sword from his shoulder. I am fine. You are bleeding. I have been bleeding for years. His eyes met hers. But I am still standing. Elara's eyes filled with tears. Then stand with me. Kael smiled. A real smile. Small. Tired. But real. They turned toward the battlefield again. Behind them, Finn had found the old bell rope near the execution grounds. He pulled it. The bell rang across Blackthorn. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound traveled through the entire territory. Doors opened. People came running. Farmers. Servants. Old warriors. Families who had lived in fear of Veyr's soldiers. They came carrying whatever weapons they could find. Axes. Knives. Tools. Even wooden poles. Veyr turned toward the growing crowd. What is this? An old woman stepped forward. You ruled through fear. Another man joined her. But fear only works when people believe they are alone. More people appeared. The courtyard filled. Veyr's army began to retreat. Kael looked at the people. For years, Blackthorn had feared the beast. Now they were standing behind him. The same people who had once watched him through the bars of the iron cage. The same people who had whispered his name. Now they were choosing him. Veyr's face twisted with rage. You think this changes anything? He looked at Kael. You will always be what you are. Kael stepped forward. And what am I? Veyr smiled. A killer. Kael's expression became cold. Yes. The answer surprised everyone. Kael continued. I have killed. The battlefield became silent around them. I have fought. He looked at the scars on his hands. I have lost people. His eyes moved toward Elara. And I have lived with the darkness inside me. Veyr lowered his sword. Then admit it. Kael looked directly at him. I am not ashamed of surviving. Veyr attacked. This time, Kael did not wait. The two men collided. Their swords struck with such force that sparks flew through the snow. Veyr was fueled by rage. Kael was fueled by something stronger. Purpose. Veyr struck his chest. Kael blocked. Veyr spun and attacked again. Kael stepped aside. The sword passed inches from his face. You should have stayed in the cage. Veyr shouted. Kael's eyes darkened. I did. He struck Veyr across the chest. Veyr stumbled backward. For years, Kael continued. He attacked again. I stayed in that cage. Another strike. Every time I believed I was only a monster. Another. Every time I believed I deserved to suffer. Veyr fell to one knee. Kael stood over him. But she opened the door. He looked at Elara. Veyr's face twisted. The Omega. Kael nodded. The Omega. Veyr laughed bitterly. She will become your weakness. Elara stepped forward. No, Veyr looked at her. She held Kael's hand. The bond between them flashed. She is not his weakness. Kael looked at Elara. And he is not mine. Veyr suddenly pulled the silver dagger. Kael recognized it. His sister's dagger. The blade had been hidden beneath Veyr's coat. Veyr lunged toward Elara. Kael moved. But this time, Elara moved too. She stepped aside. Veyr's blade missed her. Kael seized his wrist. The dagger fell into the snow. Veyr struggled. Kael could have broken his arm. He could have ended everything. Instead, he forced Veyr to his knees. The old healer stepped forward. By the laws of the Northern Territories, Lord Veyr is charged with murder, treason, illegal imprisonment, and the trafficking of prisoners. Veyr laughed. You think your laws can hold me? Kael looked down at him. No, he turned toward the iron cage. The people will. The rescued prisoners stepped forward. One by one. They had been silent for years. Forgotten. Invisible. But now they stood together. The first prisoner pointed at Veyr. He took my brother. Another spoke. He sold my daughter. A third whispered. He burned my village. Their voices grew louder. The truth spread across the courtyard. Veyr's power had been built on silence. And now the silence was gone. Kael looked at the guards who still served Veyr. Drop your weapons. One by one, they did. The last sword fell into the snow. The battle was over. But Kael did not celebrate. He stood silently. His eyes remained fixed on the iron cage. Elara walked toward him. You won. Kael shook his head. No, she looked at him. He touched the cold bars. I lost too much to call this a victory. Elara stood beside him. Then what is it? Kael looked at the cage. A beginning. He reached for the lock. The same kind of lock that had once kept him inside. His fingers closed around it. Then he broke it. The door opened. The sound of metal falling echoed across the courtyard. No one spoke. Kael stepped inside. For one moment, he stood where he had once spent years. Then he turned. He held out his hand to Elara. She took it. Together, they walked out. The crowd watched. The beast had entered the cage as a prisoner. He left it as a king. But Kael did not look at the people. He looked only at Elara. You stayed, he whispered. She smiled. I told you. What? I would bring you food. A quiet laugh escaped him. The first real laugh anyone had ever heard from the feared beast. Finn ran toward them. Kael caught him. The boy wrapped his arms around Kael's waist. For a moment, The Alpha King stood completely still. Then he placed one hand on Finn's head. Elara watched them. The man everyone had feared. The child everyone had forgotten. And the Omega girl who had started everything with a simple bowl of food. The story should have ended there. With Veyr defeated. The cage broken. The kingdom saved. But Elara felt something strange. The bond between her and Kael suddenly pulsed again. This time, it was not warm. It was cold. Kael felt it too. His smile disappeared. Far beyond the northern mountains, a howl echoed through the darkness. Not Kael's wolf. Something else. Something older. Something that had heard the bond awaken. Elara looked at Kael. What was that? Kael stared toward the mountains. His expression became serious. I don't know. Another howl echoed. Closer this time. Kael tightened his grip around Elara's hand. And somewhere beyond the snow-covered mountains, something ancient opened its eyes. The war for Blackthorn was over. But the true danger had only just begun.